Well, let's move on the conversation. So, you recall the National Consultative Fronts, the NCF. Well, they have this proposal in the works, and they're looking at what's it called again? A national constitution dialogue of sorts to maybe look at the issues we have in our constitution, the issues we have as a nation. And tonight, I asked Mr. Hilebo about that, and I just wanted to get a background, the thinking of political parties regarding that. And we're joined in the studio to explore this and a lot of other issues by Dr. Tanko Yunusa. I'm still trying to get used to the doctor. Okay. He is a spokesperson of the NCF. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Kyle.
Let me start off with that point I raised with Mr. Hilebo about this whole conversation about the Constitution and, the laws. Is it a Constitution really about us, for us? And I know there's been some work in the NCF. What is the goal, really? What are you trying to achieve?
What we are trying to achieve is to establish the fact that as a people, there have been a long-term agitation for areas, gray areas, for more or less like a reconciliation of gray areas where people feel agitated and they feel that certain corrections need to be made so that we can find ourselves as a united nation. And once that can be cleared, it could help us to propel us towards the future. And then if we can agree on some of those particular area, the gray area, i.e., for example, there's an agitation in the Southeast where they are agitating for one more state, for example, and then there's this agitation for state policing and then resource control, and then there's agitation for farmer development in the Northeast and the Northwest, also agitating for the issue of more clarity as regard to how this constitution can work for everybody. So when there are agitations by different groups, if there's a way we can find ourselves to come together and think with how to work it out, to make sure that everybody feels the sense of belonging, then maybe we can now start working together as a team. You will agree with me that when you have a divided house, there's no way the house can hold together. It's very difficult to get some things go through. And so if we can all sit down and start thinking about the country as a united front, then probably we can start getting some of these things right. I was just going through a social media posting by one person. He was talking about for almost like 60 years, we've been spending billions of naira on electricity. As I speak to you, a lot of part of this country doesn't have electricity. And doesn't mean that we don't have the human and capital resources to deal with the matter. But because we refuse to work as a team, it's becoming a mirage to the Nigerian people. So just a simple example.
Right, so I'm trying to understand that because the Constitution has been a big conversation.
Yes.
Recently, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Afe Babala, spoke to that effect, really, saying that perhaps we need to have a suspension or like a postponement of the elections. Work on this Constitution. There have been other people that have talked about this. And I wonder, for the NC front, what is the approach? How are you going about this? Some say that we can have both. The elections should happen. Then find a way to maybe, I know that Pastor Tunde Bakare talked about a certain presidential constitution review committee or something like that. He had spoken about that in the past. So have both of them go hand in hand. So what is it thinking? What are you trying to achieve? I know you have an event soon about that.
We are having an event on the 12th of this month at Yaradua Center, and we're inviting everybody. The government, the opposition political party, those who are in government, and then we're talking about civil society groups, and we're talking about security, and even the emirs, the obas, and all the traditional rulers, everybody. Because it's very obvious that if we do not have a sense of belonging, that all of us are thinking about this country, the election may become a mirage. But when we start thinking together, and we say, okay, let's start working. National Assembly, you tinker with the issue of how do we amend these gray areas. You bring it up on board. There's an agreement and there's a pronouncement. Now the people see the purposefulness of the government working together in synergy with those who are agitating. And then everybody will now, of course, shield his sword and say, let the election go in while the National Assembly deal with this matter, and probably the incoming government will consolidate on most of the things that already been agreed upon. Remember, we have done so many constitutional conferences. Some of these particular constitutional conferences are gathering dust somewhere. And then when we can dust them up and start looking at some of the area that is applicable to our present day lives and see how we can master it together and say, okay, there are areas we can deal with in this regard. And there are people that are working seriously. Of course, we have done a lot of work on our own part. We are ready to submit those particular documents to the National Assembly so that we can all work together with it. The idea is that, look, everybody must work together to save this country. If you remember, a lot of people are coming out rescue Nigeria. Everybody wants to rescue Nigeria. Everybody wants to rescue Nigeria. This is the best time to start rescuing Nigeria. Because if it affects you negatively, it affects me. If we don't have a country that is well-grounded and working together for the interest of the people, you may not have an election that will be of the interest of the people. So the agitation will continue. But once there is a direction being given that, okay, fine, the National Assembly is working, the civil society is working, the politicians are working towards the direction of getting the right thing in the right place. All the agitation that have been laid down by different groups and different zones are being tackled by the National Assembly, and we're seeing it clearly being done. Of course, everybody will see, and then we'll start working together as a country.
So this work, are you planning to lay it before the 9th Assembly, which we know has barely a year to go? And I don't know how much work can be done, or you're hoping to push this into the next cycle?
I know there have been work going on the National
on the Constitutional
and
Amendment,
all of those.
yes.
So it's like more or less like we're just putting an icing on the cake and then bringing in some of the things that we've discussed. And then if we agree, all of us come together, the government will tell us that this is what they have done so far and this is what they intend to do. The National Assembly can say this is what we have done or what we think the areas that we can know. Or all of the zones can now say, look, we have agitated that we want this. We want this established. Now we can give a timeline to some of them. For example, we can now say, if the National Assembly, we are looking at the area of possibility of having a state taking care of the agitation of the southeastern states.
Do you think the creation of a state will take care of that agitation?
No, it starts. We cannot get 100%. But if a demand is like you have 100% demand, 50% of it is being taken care of, at least you have a hope that there's a 50%, of course, will come in on board later on.
I think the demand for them is to have someone from the Southeast become president in 2023. So how will the creation of a state measure up, even if it's 50%?
It's one of the requests. It's not all of their requests. One of the requests. I was listening to the governor of Ebonyi State on your program the other day. When you talk about having a southern president as in south-south, southeast, and then southwest. There was an agreement by the governors at that time, working together to keep a kind of a close mark on the northern states, for example. So we agree that the president will come from the south. But there was no micro-zoning that particular governor to either south-south, southeast, or southwest. Now, here they are now. Almost all of them in the south are contesting for presidency. So where is the unity that they've already formed in the first place?
But, I mean, it's not unconstitutional to vie for that position.
No,
you have a right to.
Even as it is then, it's even unconstitutional to say we are zoning. There is no part of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that say you must zone a presidency to any part of this country. No. But what we are thinking about is that I have been part of the people who have been agitating for a southern president, not because of anything, but for morality, equity, and justice, so that we can get all of us to work together. The target is Nigeria. It's not about the zone or state. It's about Nigeria. If Nigeria can find itself working together and surviving as a nation, good for everybody. So now, here we are. If some of them are saying that of course, it's not really unconstitutional, they agreed. If they agreed, they would have zoned it and say, look, in the southwest, we are not running. In the south-south, we are not running. We agree, we are taking a southern president, let's zone it, let's agree microzoning it to southeast. That would have given them a consolidation of agreeing that this is where we are going, then everybody will fall in line. But as it is now, it's like you cannot continue to blackmail any part of this zone for contesting election.
Essentially, I mean, some will say the conversation should center around competence. Let everybody throw their hats in the ring, as it were, and then may the best candidate win. But, you know, this kind of proposal you're putting up, it's not really the first time we've seen it from various groups. In fact, you've talked about groups that have come to rescue Nigeria.
Yes.
And I know the NC Front is partnering with the
Nigerian Political Summit Group.
You were part of the SNG, am I right?
Just Save Nigeria
The
Group.
Save Nigeria
Of
Group.
course, in fact, I was the field marshal.
You are the field marshal. And
Yes.
there will be questions as to what happened to SNG. As at today, it will seem the people that started it have all moved on to other things. For example, Pastor Tunde Bakare now
Yes.
has this Nigeria for Nigerians movement and a couple of other people. So there's always questions about, these groups, how you can actually follow through the long haul and ensure that some of these proposals you bring on board are actually implemented. So what's different this time around? Seeing that you were part of SNG
Yeah.
and now part of NCF.
Okay, you see, in the SNG, what we essentially did at that time, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria was completely almost being kept in an abeyance. We went ahead to say no, the Constitution must be followed into two. Where the president is incapacitated, the vice president should take over leadership. But at that point in time, the vice president was almost like being taken away or forgotten completely. And that time, the beneficiary was President Goodluck Jonathan. And what we did was to say, look, you must respect the position of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Where the president is out of the seat, the vice president takes place. And we succeeded. And now, following suit is what we are trying to establish, because we are trying to now consolidate and give more power to that constitution belonging to the people. So it's just like following up with what we have been able to achieve over the years and say, look, the agitation as regard to how do we really make this constitution very strong. For example, a lot of people have been saying that the Chapter 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which says that the protection of the life and property of and other things must be made justiciable. These are facts that, okay, we can't hold our leaders accountable. If you promise us ABC, and up to now you cannot be able to achieve that particular ABC, we should be able to hold you accountable. Imagine, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway have been here for years and not been done. Promises have been made over it. I just cited issue of electricity. We are looking about our students now at home.
When last were you at the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway?
I think some couple of months ago. There's some work going on almost all the time. But you cannot imagine how many years would it take you to finish that particular road? These are some of the questions.
Yes.
And some of the basic questions that regard to how long would it take us to know that we can generate power in different parts of this country?
So I was going to get your response
on the right
on particularly what happened to SNG, because there would always be fears as to, so what will happen to the NCF? What would happen to this political summit group? What happened to the SNG?
It's not a permanent group. It is meant to take care of challenges that come within the particular point in time. At that point in time,
so it was a purpose-built vehicle?
Yes. And then we achieved what we wanted, and then we are dovetailing into what we are having as a problem at now, and we're dealing with it through the NCF. So if we could get a good constitution that people is acceptable to at least, let's say, 60-70% of the population, do we now go ahead and make agitation for constitution again? No. Already people must have learned lesson from doing that we have been able to achieve something new for the Nigerian people. All we need to do is improve on what we've been able to do.
The thinking sometimes for some political pundits is the groups are formed maybe as a shadow support group or as a shadow agitation group for maybe supporters. And I mean, you forgive people who think that being a part of the SNG now, you perhaps have a candidate in mind. Take, for example, the former convener of the SNG. Is that the thinking? Really?
Oh, no. The target I've already established that the thinking for us is about the country. When you talk about constitution, it doesn't have to do with Tunde Bakare.
So you won't be declaring support for any candidate?
Oh, no. But what we want is that we want credible candidate who will be thinking about Nigeria first. We eat, drink, and smell Nigeria. And in that respect, anybody that can fill in that particular gap is our candidate. What we want is that we want people who will think about the common man on the street with empathy, put food on their table, take care of their children and make sure that they are going to school as at when do, not when they are there in position of power, they run abroad to go and celebrate the graduation of their own children abroad. We don't want that. We want people who will be thinking about how to provide power that will enable our young men to be independently accessible and work, be productive as a people. We want people who will take care of the country where there is security of life and property. I came all the way from Kaduna to attend this particular program. I had to be praying on the road that, okay, I hope I get to Abuja safely. That's not the country that we want to live in. We don't want to have a country where even the electoral umpire are being killed in the southeast. No, we don't want people who will stop us and be conniving against the states to put the country and using the people as a pawn game for political interest. No, okay. That's not the kind of people we want.
Dr. Insa, let's wind down in 30 seconds. And, you are called the third force.
Yes.
I don't know, is that still true?
Oh, very true.
So Do you think now is a time for a third force in
Oh,
Nigeria?
it's more than enough.
But you don't have a candidate yet.
No, you don't know. That's what you.
But you just said no, you don't have a
What I
candidate.
said is that we are working as a third force. Look, any political party that is different from the PDP and the APC can be termed as a third force. Do you know that?
So there's a third, fourth, fifth, sixth force.
No, the other political parties, SDP, for example, NNPP, Labour Party, we are working day and night, and to give Nigeria another alternative,
Right.
so that they can choose. And then we need to work together as a team. You will agree with me, it's not easy when people are interested in different ways. Getting them together to work as a team takes a lot of time.
Well,
but I can assure Nigeria that we will land this particular shift.
Okay, we have to
into an
run now.
opportunity.
INEC has given political parties until the first week in June to get their act together,
Correct.
conduct their primary. So we'll be looking forward to that. But we'd like to thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you very much for
Tanko
having me, and
Yunusa,
God bless
who is the
Nigeria.
spokesperson of NCF. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, Kadi.